My sister demanded my college fund for her son, so I exposed how she really got pregnant. Hey everyone, I'm Marcus. I'm 24, and I need to tell you about the absolute insanity that went down at my family gathering last week. But to understand why the situation is so messed up, I need to give you some context about my life and my family. I live in what I can only describe as a shithole country. I'm not going to name it specifically, but let's just say opportunities here are basically non-existent unless you're born into money or have serious connections. The average salary is laughable, corruption is rampant, and the education system is a joke unless you can afford private universities that cost more than most people make in 5 years. I come from a working-class family. My dad works in construction when he can find work, and my mom does cleaning jobs for wealthier families. We've never been destitute, but we've definitely never been comfortable either. Growing up, there were times we had to choose between paying the electric bill or buying groceries for the week. I have an older sister, Valentina. She's 28 now. We were close when we were younger, but things changed drastically about 4 years ago when she got pregnant with her son, Diego. Now, here's something important you need to understand about my family. We're traditional, very traditional. My parents are deeply religious, and in our culture, family obligations are everything. You're expected to sacrifice for family, to put family needs above your own, to never turn your back on blood relatives no matter what. That cultural context is going to be really important for understanding what happened next. From the time I was about 15 years old, I knew I wanted to get out. Not just out of my house, but out of this entire country. I wanted an education, a real career, a life where I wasn't constantly struggling just to survive. My parents promised they would help pay for university. Over and over, they tell me, "Don't worry, Marcus, we're saving up. We'll make sure you get a good education. You're going to be the first in our family to get a degree." I believed them. For years, I believed them. But when I turned 18 and it was time to actually apply to universities, suddenly the money wasn't there. "It's been a tough year," my dad would say. "We'll help you next year, we promise." Next year came and went. No money. The year after that, still no money. I realized pretty quickly that if I wanted an education, I was going to have to do it myself. So at 18 years old, I started working. Multiple jobs, actually. I worked as a delivery driver during the day. I worked at a warehouse loading trucks at night. On weekends, I did freelance translation work online. My English is pretty good, and foreign companies will pay decent money for translations, at least compared to local wages. I barely slept. I was working 70 to 80 hours a week, living on instant noodles and whatever cheap food I could find, wearing the same 3 outfits because I couldn't afford new clothes. I just worked and saved. And it paid off. Last year, I managed to get a scholarship to a decent university. Not a full ride, but enough that combined with my savings, I could actually afford to go. The scholarship covers tuition, but I still need money for housing, food, books, transportation, all the other expenses that come with being a student. That's where my 6 years of savings comes in. I moved out of my parents' house 6 months ago when I started university. I'm living in a tiny studio apartment near campus. And when I say tiny, I mean it's literally just one room with a bathroom. My bed is 5 feet from my stove. But it's mine, and it's quiet, and I can study without my family's constant drama. My parents weren't happy about me moving out. In our culture, you're supposed to live at home until you get married. But I convinced them it was necessary because of the commute to campus. The truth is, I needed distance. Living at home had become suffocating, especially after Diego was born. My sister Valentina got pregnant when she was 24. The father? Some guy she'd been dating for 3 months who disappeared the second she told him she was pregnant. Classic story, right? When Valentina announced she was pregnant, my parents' response was immediate. She would move back home and they would help raise the baby. Family helps family, they said, which meant my mom quit one of her cleaning jobs to help with Diego, which meant my dad started giving Valentina money every month, which meant every family gathering became centered around Diego and Valentina's needs. And Valentina, she complained constantly about how hard it was being a single mother, about how no one helped her enough, about how she could barely afford diapers and formula. Now, I'm not heartless. I get that being a single parent is hard. But here's the thing. I was also struggling and no one seemed to give a damn about that. I was working myself to death trying to save for university, and Valentina was living rent-free in our parents' house, getting free childcare, getting money from my parents, and still complaining that no one helped her. Meanwhile, I couldn't even get my parents to help with the tuition they'd promised me for years. The difference? Valentina was vocal about her struggles. She posted about it on social media. She brought it up at every family gathering. She made sure everyone knew she was suffering. I kept quiet. I didn't complain about working 80-hour weeks. I didn't post about eating instant noodles for the third night in a row. I just put my head down and worked. And apparently, that was my mistake. Because in my family, if you're not actively complaining about your struggles, they assume you're fine. For the past 6 months since I moved out, I've been managing. It's tight, really tight, but I'm making it work. Between my remaining savings and a part-time job I do on weekends, I can pay my bills and buy groceries. I've been careful not to mention my college fund around my family. It's not that I'm hiding it exactly, but I know my family. If they knew I had savings, they'd immediately have ideas about how I should spend it that wouldn't involve my education. I thought I'd successfully kept it under wraps. I was wrong. 2 weeks ago, I went to my parents' house for Sunday dinner. This is a tradition in my family. Every Sunday, everyone comes over for a big meal. Valentina brings Diego, various aunts and uncles show up. It's this whole thing. I was helping my mom in the kitchen when she mentioned she needed to borrow some money to fix the washing machine. Without thinking, I said, "Mom, I'm a student. I'm living on my college fund right now. I can't really spare anything." She gave me this weird look. College fund? What college fund? And that's when I realized I just made a massive mistake. I tried to backtrack immediately. Oh, just, the scholarship money and the little bit I've saved from my part-time job. But my mom knows me too well. She raised an eyebrow. "Marcus, how much money do you have saved?" "Mom, it's not how much." I sighed. There was no getting out of this now. I've been saving for 6 years. It's enough to get me through university. That's all you need to know. Her eyes widened. 6 years? Marcus, that must be... Mom, please, this is my money for school. I need it. She nodded slowly, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. I should have known right then that this conversation wasn't going to stay between us. The dinner itself was normal enough. Diego ran around making noise like toddlers do. Valentina complained about the cost of daycare. My uncle argued with my dad about politics. Standard family gathering stuff. I left feeling relieved that the college fund thing hadn't come up again. I should have known better. Fast forward to last Sunday. Another family dinner, but this one was bigger than usual. Not just immediate family, but also my mom's sister and her family, my dad's brother and his wife, even my grandmother made the trip. We were all gathered in the living room before dinner, and I was showing my cousin some photos from campus on my phone when I heard my dad's voice from across the room. "Doesn't need it all anymore anyway. He got that scholarship." I looked up, confused. My dad was talking to my Uncle Roberto, but my mom was there too, and they were all looking at papers or something. "How much did you say he has?" Uncle Roberto asked. My stomach dropped. They were talking about me, about my money. Before I could say anything, Valentina's voice cut through the room. "Wait, what scholarship? Marcus has a scholarship?" Everything went quiet. All eyes turned to me. My mom looked guilty. "Valentina, we were going to tell you." "Tell me what?" Valentina stood up. Diego balanced on her hip. "What's going on?" My dad cleared his throat. "Marcus has been saving money for university. We just found out about it." "Saving money?" Valentina's voice got higher. "How much money?" This was my nightmare scenario. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. My grandmother, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, all of them waiting for my answer. "It's not a big deal," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I've been working and saving for 6 years so I could afford university. That's all." 6 years? Valentina's eyes were wide. "Marcus, that must be..." "Mom, please, this is my money for school. I need it."
How much? I hesitated, then realized there was no point in hiding it anymore. They'd just pester my parents until they found out anyway. About 15,000. The room exploded. My grandmother gasped. My aunts started whispering to each other. Uncle Roberto whistled low. And Valentina? She just stared at me with this look I'd never seen before. It wasn't surprise, it was calculation. 15,000, she repeated slowly. Marcus, do you know what I could do with 15,000? Do you know how much that would help Diego? Here we go, I thought.
I've been struggling for 4 years, Valentina continued, her voice getting louder. 4 years of barely making ends meet, of not being able to afford decent clothes for Diego, of having to choose between buying him healthy food or paying for his doctor visits. And you've been sitting on 15,000 this whole time? Valentina, that's not fair. Not fair? She was nearly shouting now. What's not fair is that I'm out here drowning while my little brother is hoarding money. I'm not hoarding it. It's for my education. You already have a scholarship, she shot back. You said so yourself. You don't need all that money anymore. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Valentina, the scholarship only covers tuition. I still need to pay for housing, food, books, everything else. You could move back in with mom and dad. You don't need to waste money on rent when you could live here for free. I stared at her. Are you serious right now? Completely serious. She shifted Diego to her other hip. Marcus, I'm asking you, as your sister, please, donate the remaining money to me and Diego. We need it more than you do. Donate? Like my 6 years of 80-hour work weeks was some kind of charity she had a right to? No, I said firmly, absolutely not. That's when my mom stepped in. Marcus, sweetheart, maybe you should consider... Consider what, Mom? Giving away the money I saved from my education so Valentina doesn't have to budget properly? Hey, Valentina snapped. I am budgeting. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to raise a child? Then maybe you should have thought about that before... I stopped myself before I said something I couldn't take back. But Valentina knew exactly where I was going. Before what, Marcus? Say it. Before I got pregnant? The room was dead silent now. This was dangerous territory. In our culture, in our family, you don't question someone's decision to have a child. Children are sacred, and being a single mother is seen as a noble sacrifice, not poor planning. But I was so angry I didn't care anymore. Yes, I said quietly, before you got pregnant by some guy you barely knew who ran away the second you told him to. Before you decided to have a baby you couldn't afford. Before you made a choice that you knew would make your life harder and then expected everyone else to fix it for you. My grandmother actually gasped out loud. My mom looked like she might cry, and my dad's face was turning that particular shade of red that meant he was about to explode. But I wasn't done. I have been working since I was 18 years old, Valentina. 80-hour weeks, do you understand that? I worked 3 jobs simultaneously while you were living rent-free with mom and dad. I skipped meals so I could save more money while you were getting free childcare and monthly checks from our parents. I gave up 6 years of my life to make this dream happen, and you think you're entitled to it because you made irresponsible choices? Marcus, my dad's voice boomed across the room, that is enough. But no, Dad, it's not enough, because I'm tired of being the only one in this family who is expected to sacrifice without complaint. I'm tired of working myself to death and having no one care because I'm not vocal about my struggles. And I'm especially tired of Valentina acting like the world owes her something because she's a single mother. Valentina's face had gone pale. Family helps family, Marcus. Oh, really? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Where was the family when I needed help with tuition? Where were you when I was working until 2 a.m. every night? Where was this family helps family mentality when I asked mom and dad if they could help me with even a fraction of what they promised me? No one had an answer for that. That's what I thought. This family only believes in family helps family when it means I'm the one doing the helping. My dad stood up, and I knew from his body language that this was about to get worse. Marcus, your sister needs this money more than you do. You can move back home. I'm not moving back home. And use your scholarship for school. The money you've saved can go to Diego's education fund or to help Valentina get back on her feet. So you're saying Diego's future education is more important than mine. The education that hasn't happened yet is more valuable than the education I'm currently pursuing? That's not what I'm saying. That's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that my 6 years of sacrifice mean nothing because Valentina needs money right now.
Valentina had been quiet for a minute, but now she stepped forward, and I could see she was done playing nice.
You know what, Marcus? You're being selfish. You're being a selfish prick, and everyone here can see it. Selfish? I repeated. Selfish for wanting to use the money I earned for the purpose I earned it for. Yes, because you don't need it all. You have a scholarship now. The situation has changed, but you're too greedy to adjust. That word, greedy, hit something in me. I'm greedy? My voice dropped low. Valentina, in the past 4 years, how much money have Mom and Dad given you? She hesitated. That's none of your business. How much? Marcus, my dad warned. No, I want to know, because I've been working 3 jobs for 6 years and saved $15,000. Valentina's been living rent-free, getting free childcare, receiving monthly checks from our parents. So I'm curious, how much money have you received from our parents since Diego was born? Valentina's jaw clenched. They're helping me with my child. That's what good parents do. So when they help you, it's what good parents do, but when they don't help me, after promising they would, that's just what? Tough luck for Marcus? You're a man, Valentina said, and I could hear the venom in her voice. You don't have a child depending on you. You can just work more hours, get another job. I was already working 80 hours a week. How many more hours are there in a week, Valentina? Then maybe you should have planned better. Maybe you shouldn't have moved out. Maybe you shouldn't have chosen such an expensive university. I laughed. Actually laughed. I chose the cheapest university that offered me a scholarship. I'm living in a studio apartment that's smaller than Diego's bedroom. I work a part-time job on top of being a full-time student. But sure, I should have planned better. My Uncle Roberto, who had been quiet this whole time, suddenly spoke up. Marcus, I understand you're upset, but your sister is in a tough position. She's a single mother trying to provide for her son. Don't you think families should support each other in times like these? I turned to look at him. Uncle Roberto, when I was 19 and working 3 jobs to save money, did anyone in this family offer to support me? He looked uncomfortable. That was different. How? How was it different? You didn't have a child. Exactly. I didn't have a child because I made responsible choices, because I used protection, because I didn't let some random guy get me pregnant and then disappear. The room went so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I'd crossed the line and I knew it, but I was past caring. Valentina's face had gone from pale to bright red. How dare you? How dare you what? Tell the truth? Everyone in this room is thinking it, Valentina. I'm just the one who's saying it out loud. Marcus Alejandro, my grandmother started, using my full name the way she did when I was a child and had done something truly terrible. No, abuela, I'm done being quiet. I'm done pretending that Valentina's situation is some tragic accident that she had no control over. She made a choice. She chose to have unprotected sex with someone she barely knew. She chose to keep the baby even though she knew she couldn't afford it. She chose to stay unemployed for 2 years while Mom and Dad supported her. Those were all her choices. I wasn't unemployed, Valentina protested weakly. I was taking care of Diego, which is a full-time job. I get that. But it's a full-time job you chose to take on knowing you didn't have the resources for it. And now you want me to pay for your choices with money I earned specifically for my own future. My dad stood up abruptly. That's enough, Marcus. You're being disrespectful.
I'm being honest. You're being cruel to your sister. And you've been cruel to me for 6 years. You promised to help with my education and then you didn't. Do you have any idea what that felt like? Working myself to death at 18, 19, 20 years old because my own parents broke their promise to me? My mom is crying openly now. We were going to help you, Marcus. We just didn't have the money. Because you gave it all to Valentina, I shouted. Every spare penny for the past 4 years has gone to Valentina and Diego. You quit your second job to provide free childcare. Dad gave her money every month. You didn't have money for my education because you chose to prioritize her choices over my future. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Valentina said something that made everything so much worse. At least I'm not abandoning my family the way you are. I turned to look at her slowly. What did you just say? You hurt me. You're moving away, going to university, leaving all of us behind. You're abandoning your family for some degree that probably won't even get you a good job anyway.
Something in me snapped. Some final thread of patience just broke. You want to know why I'm leaving? I asked quietly. You really want to know? Marcus, my mom warned. Because this family is toxic. Because I'm tired of being the only one who's expected to sacrifice. Because Valentina got pregnant at 24 by some loser who abandoned her, and somehow I'm the bad guy for not wanting to pay for her mistakes? Because every single person in this room thinks they have a right to my money. Money I earned, money I saved, money I bled for. I turned to face my parents. You promised me you'd help with university. You looked me in the eyes when I was 15 years old and told me not to worry, that you were saving for my education. Was that a lie? Or did you just decide that Valentina's baby was more important than your son's future? My dad's face was red. You're twisting things. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, you chose Valentina over me. You all did. I picked up my phone and my jacket. I was done with this conversation. Done with this gathering. Done with all of it. Where are you going? My mom asked. Home. To my apartment that I pay for with my money. Marcus, sit down. We're not finished. Yes, we are. I'm not giving Valentina my college fund, I'm not moving back home, and I'm not going to stand here and be lectured about family obligations by people who only seem to remember I'm part of the family when they want something from me. I headed for the door. If you leave now, don't bother coming back, my dad shouted after me. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob and turned to look at him one last time. Don't worry, Dad. I won't. And I walked out.
The drive back to my apartment was a blur. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, hearing Valentina's voice saying donate the money, hearing my parents agreeing with her, hearing my entire family act like I was being unreasonable for wanting to keep money I'd earned. When I got home, I just sat in my car in the parking lot for probably 20 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. My phone started buzzing almost immediately, text after text after text. From my mom, Marcus, please come back. We need to talk about this calmly. From Valentina, I can't believe you just embarrassed me in front of the entire family. You're unbelievable. From my uncle Roberto, your parents are very upset. You need to apologize. From various aunts and cousins, everything from family helps family, Marcus, to you're being very selfish, to one supportive message from my cousin Anna saying, I get why you're upset. I ignored all of them and went upstairs to my apartment. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept going over everything I'd said, wondering if I'd been too harsh, wondering if maybe they were right and I was being selfish. But then I'd think about those 6 years. 6 years of waking up at 5 a.m. to do delivery routes before heading to the warehouse. 6 years of translating documents until 2 a.m. because I needed every penny. 6 years of watching my friends go out and have fun while I was always working. 6 years of my parents watching me struggle and never once offering the help they'd promised me. No, I wasn't being selfish. I was protecting myself and my future. The texts continued all week. My mom tried the guilt approach, talking about how hurt everyone was. Valentina tried the anger approach, calling me a terrible uncle and a horrible brother. My dad didn't text at all, which somehow felt worse than if he'd yelled at me. Then, 3 days after the incident, Valentina sent me a text that made me see red. I've been looking into what it costs to raise a child properly. Diego needs so much that I can't afford. Tutoring, a better school, music lessons, sports equipment. Your $15,000 would change his entire life, but you're too selfish to care about your own nephew's future. I hope you can live with yourself. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I started typing. Valentina, I'm going to say this once and then I'm done discussing this with you. That money represents 6 years of my life. 6 years of working myself to exhaustion. 6 years of sacrificing everything, my social life, my health, my youth, to build a future for myself. You made choices that led to your current situation. I don't say that to be cruel, but it's the truth. You chose to have unprotected sex.
You chose to have a baby with someone you barely knew. You chose to keep the baby when you couldn't afford it. Those were all your choices, and they were valid choices for you to make. But they were your choices, not mine. And I should not have to pay for your choices with the future I worked so hard to build. I love Diego. He's my nephew. But loving him doesn't mean I have to set myself on fire to keep him warm. And that's what you're asking me to do, destroy my own future to make yours easier. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry, but I'm just not. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Her response came immediately. Then don't expect to be part of this family anymore. That threat should have scared me. In our culture, being cut off from family is serious. It means no support network, no safety net, nothing. But you know what I felt when I read that text? Relief. Because if being part of this family meant sacrificing myself over and over for people who didn't appreciate it, then maybe I didn't want to be part of it anymore. Over the next week, I got calls from various family members trying to mediate. My uncle Roberto called to tell me I was destroying the family. My grandmother called crying, begging me to reconsider. Even my cousin Anna, who'd initially been supportive, called to say that maybe I should just give Valentina a small amount of money to keep the peace. How much is a small amount? I asked her. I don't know, maybe $5,000? That still leaves you with 10? Anna, $5,000 is a year of living expenses for me. It's a year of my life. But it's just money, Marcus. Family is more important. If family is more important than money, then why is the family asking me for money?